yesterday's simulation, first thing that was on the simulation was reflection of waves. So we took a look at a wave on a string and how it reflected when it bounced off a fixed end and a free end. So how did a wave bounce off a fixed end? Inversely. All right, so waves reflecting off fixed ends reflect inversely. Okay, how about off a free end? Correct. Or a loose end, I suppose I could say. Okay, just reverses. So it stays on the same side of our medium, and it just basically turns around, heads back towards where it came from. These are not standing waves yet. Does not invert. Okay. A standing wave is created when a wave reflects off an end and let me rephrase that. A standing wave is created when a wave reflects off an end and lands back on top of itself. Okay. A lot of the daily question answers said that two waves had to interfere or that they had to create different zones with nodes and antinodes. But the important thing is that a wave reflects on itself. Standing waves are created when a wave reflects on itself. When a wave reflects on itself. Okay, so as part of that reflection, we get interference. Now, there are two types of interference. There's constructive interference and destructive interference. Regardless of which kind it is, they're both created by adding the amplitudes of the waves at all points. So interference is when waves add and subtract their amplitudes. Okay, within that, we said there's constructive interference. And constructive interference is where we get a larger total amplitude because crest has met crest. Creates a larger amplitude. And we also have destructive interference. In which crest meets trough, and the two effectively subtract from each other, creating smaller amplitudes. Yes. Crest meets crest or trough meets trough. Yeah, both would work. So destructive interference, crest meets trough to create smaller amplitudes. Okay. And write down our next piece here, standing waves. You create zones of alternating constructive and destructive interference. Of alternating constructive and destructive interference. Okay. We saw that a little bit in the sim from the other day, and what it winds up looking like is something like this. You had to draw it out as well. Maybe your drawing doesn't look the way I decided to make mine, but that's okay. With spots that don't move, my dots, which are nodes, and spots that do move, which are antinodes. The dotted line is just where the wave is at a different point in time. So nodes are spots of completely destructive interference. They always have an amplitude of 0. Points of completely destructive interference. Antinodes alternate between completely destructive and double the amplitude or maximum constructive interference. Antinodes alternate between completely destructive and maximum constructive interference. Skipping anything. When we create standing waves, this is most useful for when we talk about resonance. Okay. Resonance occurs when an object begins vibrating at its natural frequency, causing standing waves within itself that basically continue to build up amplitude. Resonance occurs when an object vibrates at its natural frequency, creating standing waves within itself. Creating standing waves within itself. Okay. A transverse wave, but we also want to put in a little bit about reflection of other kinds of waves. So one of the easiest ones to recognize is reflection in a mirror. So reflection is simply when a wave strikes a barrier and bounces off in a new direction. A wave strikes a barrier and bounces in a new direction. Okay? Within that, regardless of what kind of wave it is, whether it's a sound wave, light wave, whatever you want, it always obeys what we call the law of reflection. Law of reflection. And the law of reflection states that the incident angle of a wave is always equal to the reflected angle of a wave. The incident angle of a wave is equal to the reflected angle of a wave. In a diagram, we would draw that such that if this is our mirror and this is simply a normal line, normal, of course, meaning that it's perpendicular to the plane of the surface. If we've got a wave inbound here, we can find an incident angle there, theta I. When the wave bounces and leaves, we can show that it has a relationship to theta R, reflected wave, where now make sure you are watching on this one. If you're watching the video, you may have to go back, rewind a couple times, because this one is a little bit tricky. Theta I is equal to theta R. Okay? Probably the most difficult equation we've gotten all year. I'm glad James is here to point out sarcasm for us. All right. In a regular flat mirror, this is pretty easy to figure out. But for what we're also going to look at, we're going to take a look at concave and convex mirrors. So a concave mirror, first of all, the mirror is not flat, but rather bowl-shaped, and the normals of the mirror all cross at some singular point. Normals of the mirror cross at one point. At one point. Normals are lines that are perpendicular to the surface in question. So like when we talked about normal force, it was perpendicular to the surface that the object was sitting on. Okay, so this is our mirror. We've got some inbound wave. It bounces off following the law of reflection, showing that this is the normal. And we've got some other inbound wave. It's going to bounce off here, following the law of reflection, showing that this is our normal, and they're going to cross out here. But the point at which the light crosses is what we call a focus. Okay. Now, a few things significant there. First of all, because the light is crossing, that means that an image that you're going to see is potentially flipped, potentially upside down. It also means that at one spot, it's a very, very intense beam of light, because all of that, or intense wave, because all of that energy is being focused at that one spot. So this is an example of a concave mirror. Okay. Oh, first of all, you'll notice that all of you guys looking at yourselves, you're upside down, absolutely. You're upside down because you're outside of the focus. However, I am not upside down, correct? I am very, yeah. If you didn't already know, my head is very big. So I'm just like grin into it and stare at Nishi like this for the rest of the hour or something. All right, so if you're inside the focus, you're not going to be flipped upside down because your light doesn't go through this crossing point. But because you guys are outside the focus, the light crosses through this focus, meaning it is now inverted. Okay. Beyond that, I can also focus all the light on a singular position. So I take a blank piece of paper. I can refocus this light onto one spot, recreating the image. Okay. Take a look at the paper.
Wait, what's on there?
You should see what we just wrote.
How? Where? Why? Oh, is it on that sheet of paper?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a blank sheet.
It is a blank sheet.
Wait.
Take a look at the paper.
Yeah.
Can you guys see it?
I can see it, but where is it coming from? Oh.
Okay. Why should you paper? A little bit of black magic, and suddenly we have light. All right. So, concave mirror reflects all the light, so it makes it one point. These are used for reflecting telescopes. Reflecting telescopes, which are all professional telescopes now. All professional telescopes use a mirror of some kind. Whether that be that they're looking at visible light like the Hubble, or if they're looking at infrared, radio, doesn't matter. We can also use this idea for satellites. Because like I just said, we can use this for radio waves, and we can collect radio waves over a large area to get better signal. This is also used for listening devices. You've all seen some kind of spy show where they've got the device and it's kind of cone-shaped and they point it at somebody they want to eavesdrop on. Yeah, these are going to be concave listening devices. Go ahead, Bill. No, because microscopes use lenses, not mirrors. We'll talk that next week. Okay. Concave mirror. So my next one is a convex mirror. Convex mirror, all the normals of the mirror are pointed away from each other or angled away. all normals are angled away from each other. Okay, so what that means is that when I have my convex mirror, light comes in, bounces off, and goes away. Regardless of what mirror we're talking about here, it still obeys the law of reflection. It's still creating an incident angle that is equal to its reflected angle relative to the normal about which it strikes. Okay? These ones you probably are a little more familiar with. Right, they're the ones in the hallways, they're the ones that are designed for security. So while they provide me with less detail about what I'm looking at, they provide me with a wider field of view. So these are blind spot mirrors. These are also your side mirrors on your car. So the ones here and here, that says they're slightly convex. Right. It says objects in mirror are closer than they appear because it's convex, so they all look slightly smaller. Say again? Because they're barely convex. They're very close to being flat. Your rear view mirror is flat, but the side ones are just a little convex, so that you get a slightly wider field of view. If you've got a blind spot mirror on your driver's side, it's very convex to give you even more field of view. And if you look at some semis and school buses, they've got those big like fisheye mirrors that are designed to give you as much possible field of view as you can, and very, very, very little detail. So large field of view, low detail. Small field of view, high detail. Also has this really cool ability to focus light on individual spots. Like a spotlight? Yeah. Which makes it very cool. All right, questions about types of mirrors here? Okay. Let me double check, but I'm pretty sure that's all we have to do.